This is the Hoff Time Report with Idaho Freedom Foundation President Wayne Hoffman, one of Idaho's most respected, influential public policy voices.
Is this thing working? My gosh. Technology, it ain't my friend. And I'm a little bit early, so thank you all for tuning in. This will be a very short update. But I've been toying with the idea the last several days of conversations with leftists. And I think it would be, right now the communication, the dialogue is so poor. You've got folks on the left who are, throwing stuff at my direction, and then you got folks on the right who are responding. Either I'm doing it or people are responding on my behalf, and it's just not great. So I said the other day, let's do a Twitter Spaces program. I'll just get on Twitter, and I will, talk about whatever issues you want to talk about, our positions on different things, subjects that are of great concern to us at the Freedom Foundation, subjects that are of concern to folks on the left. And so I get on Twitter Spaces. This was on Saturday, and no one joined. Well, I shouldn't say no one. There are people who kind of tuned in just to kind of listen, but no one said anything. No one asked any questions. There was no conversation. And then there's this young TikToker, I guess is what you call them, who describes herself as a socialist. And I said, listen, let's just go and have a conversation. Just want to talk. And you can hear my ideas, and I can hear yours, and I can tell you where I'm coming from, and you can tell me where you're coming from. And didn't want to do that either. We're still negotiating, I guess, or at least I don't know if we're negotiating, but she's complaining about it on Twitter about the fact that we've invited her on to do have a conversation. Not even a date, just a conversation. Here's my point, and this is the entire reason for this stream tonight, is just to say this is an open invitation. I want to discuss issues. I want to have a conversation. So if you know some leftists who, there are a lot of birds, just a lot of birds flocking into my yard for some reason. There's a whole, I think they call them a murder. Is that right? When you've got a whole bunch of birds, are called a murder. Anyway, the premise of my request is let's talk to one another. You need to hear what I'm saying, and I need to hear what you're saying, because there are two very distinct views of where this country ought to go right now. Some people think that the government needs to be more involved in deciding the direction of the country, the economy, healthcare, education, everything. And I think that what we need is a lot less government, and I have reasons for those. And those reasons are very complex. It takes more than just a soundbite. It's more than just here's a policy proposal to get rid of certain agencies. I think that government involvement has been, bar none, the biggest detriment to families, to charities, churches, to neighbors helping neighbors, friends helping friends. We've replaced people's individual humanity with collectivism, with the idea that government's going to come in on a white horse and save everybody. And so it's just an open invitation. I just want to sit down with. You don't have to be part of an organization. Michael asks, would I talk to anybody from Take Back Idaho? Sure, I would love to have a conversation with Jim Jones or Bruce Newcomb and discuss where we are and where it is we want to go and what their positions are. I think it would be very interesting, and I think we can have a conversation that is friendly and actually produces some kind of results. So I'm just throwing this out there to you guys. I'm sure some of the people who are tuning in tonight are probably on our side. And so maybe this doesn't really help much except to just kind of throw that message out. And as you talk to your friends, you can say, oh, Wayne's put the invitation out. He wants to have a conversation. Why won't you have a conversation? Yeah, Ken, I agree with you. Here, I just learned how to do this the other day. There we go. There's Ken's comment, so everybody can see it. You can't really talk to the left anymore. It's really weird because I've been kind of going back and forth with the leftists on Twitter all afternoon, and they ask questions, then I answer their questions, and then they respond back with gibberish about how I didn't answer their questions, or they'll make something up entirely. And it's very frustrating. And we're doing this in, I said the other day, 140 word intervals. I guess Twitter has a different. I don't know how many words or letters you're supposed to put on Twitter these days. I just type until the little bar turns red, and then I know I can't type anymore. But it's very frustrating. I think that there are leftists out there who want what we want. They just want it, and they think you can achieve it in a different way. They think more government's going to solve the problems. They think that, for example, a discussion that I had this afternoon with a guy about minimum wage. He thinks raising the minimum wage is going to solve everybody's problems. And I was trying to explain to him that minimum wage started out as a racist mechanism to keep minorities out of jobs and also empower labor unions. And then the history of this is very clear. But he didn't want to hear it. Didn't want to hear it. But I think that conversing about this and sharing these ideas and explaining what it is we're after is extremely important. And I would also say that putting aside the real hardcore leftists, I'm talking the socialists, there are folks in Idaho who have been part of the Republican Party establishment forever. And they've been growing government. They've basically been doing the bidding of the left, and maybe they don't realize it. And those people would be really important to have conversations with. Here's Brian's comment about the true nature of leftist Democrats and what they're really about. I mean, listen, I can say that also about a lot of Republicans. And the part of the conversation that I had today on the minimum wage is, remember, the minimum wage increase that was last passed, I think it was in 2007 or 2008, was part of a war funding package. It wasn't passed because it was the right policy. It was passed because some Republicans, even Bill Sally, I was working for Bill Sally at the time, and he voted for the minimum wage increase because it was part of funding of the troops in the Middle East. And I would argue that that's terrible too, because you're tying people's wages to whether you're going to be able to drop bombs on folks. I don't know. I'm not a peacenik. I'm just saying that it just kind of frustrates me that Congress has a propensity to tie completely disparate topics to one another and then make people vote on them, and then we're supposed to call that good. So, I mean, and that was in a Republican-controlled. Was that a Republican-controlled Congress? It might not have been, but certainly there was a Republican president who signed the bill, and he George W. Bush has some ownership in that. So I think there are a couple of different pieces here. One is the extreme leftists. I want to talk to them. I want to have a conversation with them. I want them to hear what I'm thinking. I want to hear what they're thinking. And I also want to make sure they understand that, this is not some kind of cabal to destroy the world. I see that government has been a huge impairment on the lives of people. And I've got data, I've got evidence of that, and I'm happy to share that. But it requires conversation. And then you have the leftists who are part of groups like Take Back Idaho. And there are a lot of Republicans that are part of that group. And they are the establishment Republicans who are perfectly content working with liberal Democrats to grow government, create new programs, solve all kinds of problems because we have some new program or some new agency or some new regulation. And how are they any better than the Democrats? That's the conversation that I think we can have, and we probably should have. Right now, Americans are talking past each other, and it's not helpful to anybody. But I want people to understand that there's something else here that really is missing in the Discord. It's just constant back and forth on social media, sound bites in commercials, and text messages to people to tell you that you're supposed to be angry about whatever the latest outrage is. And we do some of that too, because that's how you get messages out these days. But it really, really doesn't help anybody in the long run. It's just the real answers are in longer, more detailed, more complex conversations. Yeah, politicians love to, Michael. Politicians do love to add things to bills that wouldn't pass on their own. That's not true in the Idaho legislature generally, because we have a single subject clause in the Idaho Constitution. But in Congress, I mean, they'll put 20 different things, they put 100 different things in a bill and then dare you to vote against it. I mean, there was some criticism of Mike Simpson, in fact, today. Not that I'm a fan of Mike Simpson's, because I think he's the biggest statist in all the land, but he pushed for some earmarks in a in a spending bill, and then voted against the bill that contained the earmarks. And of course, the media is criticizing him for that. They criticized Bill Sally for that. He worked on some earmarks, and he was very proud of himself because he was a freshman congressman trying to get earmarks, and he got those earmarks into the legislation and then voted down the legislation. So, I mean, I get that. The Congress is really, really, really dysfunctional. But all that being said, it's really a problem when these complex issues are distilled down into whatever Congress is doing that particular day. That's why we're not getting anywhere, because we're just having this back and forth, and um, the uh, the conversation has reached a place where we can't even pick up the phone and call one another, or record a podcast and discuss things and like civilized adults. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping we can do better than that. I'm hoping we can provide some proof that yes, people from different sides of the political aisle, and I'm not talking about Republican and Democrat, I'm just talking about people who believe in socialism, and people who believe in as much freedom as humanly possible, can get together and talk through these things, and maybe we'll change some minds. I don't know. Oh, let's see what else we have here. Buzzing near me. Republicans talk tough on core issues. I can't read. I don't have my reading glasses on. I'll read it down here, and then you can. And then how do I even show it again? Sorry, buddy, the technology is beyond me. Republicans talk tough on some issues, but are always too eager to reach across the aisle when it comes to spending your money and spending. Yeah, absolutely. I hate bipartisan stuff. I really do. I can't stand when somebody says, "Oh, bipartisan bill." Okay, yeah, you got Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, and Joe Manchin or something to support a bill. It's bipartisan. Well, that's scary. And I don't understand why bipartisan legislation always results in me losing my freedom. Why can't there be bipartisan legislation that results in me having more freedom and the government having less power? Um, that's a valid policy discussion. It's a valid question. Throughout the history of the state of Idaho and the history of the United States government continues to grow, has been growing. And is it doing us any favors? Not really. It's not helping us at all. And so anyway, I'm hoping, like I said, that we have got to do more talking to one another, and we've also got to remember that if we're just parsing things down into sound bites and things that fit neatly on a bumper sticker, we cannot possibly ever hope to change hearts and minds or get people to understand where we're coming from, where the other side is coming. I want to understand why the socialists are so convinced that if they just add one more government program or one more edict or one more mandate, that somehow everything's going to be all better. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But there's that. And I also hope that people recognize that I actually have horns and a tail. Thank you for the comment. I'll just put that up there. I really appreciate you too. I appreciate all the folks who've been with us the last 14 years as we've been, fighting for, initially when we started, it was all about, how do we make regulations lighter? How do we lower some taxes? How do we, get rid of some of the corporate welfare and stuff like that? But now it truly is about how you save um, the republic, how you bring back the values that made America the greatest country in the world and spread prosperity throughout the world. Um, and I wholeheartedly agree. We tried so much government. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And yeah, I want to give freedom a try. And part of the thing that I really want to do too is explain to folks that we really haven't tried real freedom, because real freedom is absolutely hard, really, really hard. When you vote to get rid of an agency or a program or cut spending on certain things, people generally don't throw parades. They want, the mindset is that you, the politician, are supposed to bring something back to my district. And if you're not doing that, then you're not doing your job. I think we're shifting that thinking, though, by saying, no, we don't want anything from government. What we really want is for you to go to Boise or Washington, D.C., and protect our God given, constitutionally protected rights. Remember, rights don't come from God. Rights don't come from government. They come from God. They come from our Creator. They are inherent in us. And so when politicians go to your state capital or the U.S. Capitol or any other capital for that matter, city council, we have to recognize that their number one job is to protect our liberties. And instead, we viewed it as their number one job is to bring us back something or to solve some problems or to help us, as we say in the South. They're supposed to go and help us. And no, their job is not to do that. They can't. First of all, they can't help us. Second, they shouldn't be bringing things back to us, because every dollar the government takes in is money that comes out of somebody's pockets. You're doing harm to people in order to supposedly help people, and that's the number one thing. And yeah, Michael, I really do. I'm glad you brought up the Tuttle twins, because we do need to be sharing everything we can with youngsters about our country's values. And you're not getting that in the public school system. Politicians don't like talking about it. The elected officials don't like talking about it. Certainly the public school system has done a lot to undermine our values by not teaching our values. So anyway, really grateful to all of you for tuning in. Like I said, I didn't want to be on here very, very long, but do appreciate the comments and the feedback. Likes, love, and support. Feel free to hit the like button on whatever platform you're watching this. Share this with your friends. Hit the subscribe button, notification bell, so you know when we go live. And of course, be sure to tune in to Brian Hyde tomorrow for Nowhere to Hide. Oh, before I go, one more thing. If you are not an Idaho Freedom Foundation donor, suggest you become one, because all of our donors are going to get a special invitation to the unveiling of a new project that we're going to be releasing. Very enlightening, amazing research that my team has put together regarding the public school system. So if you're not already a donor, please consider supporting us, and you will get a preview of the research, the project that we're going to release. I believe it's next week. So you have until then to do that. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you all again next time, as soon as I figure out how to end the stream, because I can't see the button. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.